Fire it up, folks. We are ready to get ignited. Thy Phoenix is rising this week. So we have a total solar eclipse and we have some synergistic alignments elsewhere in the sky that actually exacerbate this expansive, uppity yang feeling. There's your background. Let's go ahead and get to it. Here's our influence chart, and we're going to do two things this report. I'm going to show you what we most probably will feel energetically, and then we're going to talk about some best behaviors, some suggestions in order to get through this energy without creating a bunch of mistakes, and while increasing your chance of success given the energies that we're going to talk about. So this is the influence chart. It's the Phoenix rising because all the circles are together, overlapped. The dream bot, I can't wait to show you that, is Phoenix rising like never before. The I Ching says 39 line 5, and when you put those together, you get obstacles, and you got to think, how can a Phoenix rise if there's no reason to? It's kind of like having a movie or a book. You got the villain and you got the hero. Well, you don't need the hero if there's no evil done or no bad things happening or there's no obstacles. So the obstacles, I think, is indicative of what is going to end up producing the Phoenix. All right. So we have in the tropical astrology, we have the sun in Aries. Obviously, we have Mercury retrograde in Aries, and that's and then as when Venus enters Aries, the Mercury and Venus will bracket, be like a wedding procession. Then the moon comes in to be the bride, and the sun already there, and we'll have our total solar eclipse. And then the other alignments are big and powerful, and we'll talk about those as well, but they're synergistic. All right, let's get started. Well, how about that? It jumped. All right, so a big shout out to not just one winning post, but PD3862 had two winning posts, tied on both of them together with great comments about especially seeing how these surf reports play out in real life. For example, in the Dreambot, we talked about shred metal, and he says, or she, sorry, I'm not sure. So I just saw a bunch of shredded metal in Baltimore, and very apropos. Well done, PD. You deserve the winning award. Let's go to the Dreambot. And it's like never before. The word spring, April, that's some things that we can expect, being that it is spring now. But spring, April, towards competition is our first linguistic set. But I think more importantly, we want to point out the significance of the red arrows. Spring, April, towards fire, forward. It's very forward movement, spring forward. And then the blue arrows are about flying and up and away, flying, passenger, plane. And so when you combine those, springing forward and up and away, you get Phoenix rising. It's plain and simple. You guys agree? Is that what you see as well? And there's some other linguistics that are pretty cool too, but I won't bore you. All right, here's our eclipse cycle. We have a brand new one starting this week, midweek. There's this tiny little sliver of blue is where we are right now. We're in between eclipses, and we will have a total solar eclipse, as indicated here, is right on that blue arrow, and it's in Aries on April 8th. And just a little overview of our 6-month lunar cycle or eclipse cycle. You Capricorns are lucky this week or this 6-month period because you get 2 full moons to yourselves. So wonderful. And the current energy window that we are in is called the Phoenix Rising. And the yin-yang meter is very much swayed to the yang, as indicated by the name of the window. And that video, if you haven't seen it yet, talks about this window from the 4th, which starts this week, which starts on our first day of the surf week for this week. And it ends on the 19th. And then the gold rush will begin. And actually, the gold rush energy is already starting already. Started back in March. So, but it's only getting stronger. I will have more on that throughout this report. Okay. Venus. So we're in between these two vertical lines. The big news, Venus going into Aries and the eclipse. Here's another way of representing this week. We have this line as the rising Phoenix, and it gets only stronger as we go, because at the beginning, there's where Venus enters Aries. Here's where the moon enters Aries, and then we have the total solar eclipse. And then a Mars and Saturn exact, which actually help. This is the wise spiritual warrior that we're going to talk about, but this adds to the yangness and the rising Phoenix. All right, day to day, it's fairly simple throughout our week. We have a lot of Aries dominant. We have a declining amount of pressure and conflict within the alignments. So we're pretty much just left with sextiles, conjunctions, and semi-sextiles. Another phenomenon that's happening that I've noticed is the compression of all these planets. So the furthest out on this side is Uranus, and a very, very slow planet. So that's going to stay similar to that all week. So that's one end of our compression. Pluto's the other end, and there's roughly 110 degrees. So all the planets are within 110 degrees at the offset. Now, if we exclude Pluto, which some would argue this, you can't do that, but you're going to see how both Moon and Mars are going to compress this whole thing even more. We're going to get into really tight formation on the day of the eclipse. So it's like a wedding procession. But this is 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time on 4th of April. Venus goes into Aries. It's going to make us very enthusiastic, passionate, and fearless about relationships. Relationships will together be more impulsive, easily bored with the mundane. And here's Friday. I'd like to point out some of these other aspects that we're working on. This is the Mars and Saturn in Pisces. We're looking at, roughly 3.5 degrees. So it's pretty tight, and it's going to be synergistic with the eclipse itself, the rising Phoenix archetype. We have Mercury retrograde, and then we have these runaway bulls that we've also named. This is going to be the centerpiece for the Gold Rush alignment, the Gold Rush energy window. That's Uranus and Jupiter in about 2.5. So that conjunction about the same tightness as this. This conjunction, the Uranus and Jupiter, basically last from, if we want to be technical with the 8-degree orb, from early March 2024 all the way until June 2024. So there's two fairly slow planets, and that's why that conjunction lasts for so long. And this energy, it appears, is already manifesting the archetype. Then there's a bunch of different interpretations for this. We looked at when it first started as a runaway bulls, where you got two Taurus planets or planets in Taurus that are tethered to, like a leader or leashed. But if you can imagine the person on the other end of that leash holding on is just basically being dragged through the mud because of Jupiter is expansive and runaway. It's a runaway bull, but Uranus is taking it into new pastures. And that does dovetail into the kind of the magic or the synchronicity or the luck of Jupiter and maybe value and worth and monetary realm. Okay, then on Saturday, we have Venus making a perfect conjunction to Pluto, and that goes exact. It's a sextile. Oh, I said conjunction, I meant sextile. And this is the maverick of love as a magnetic attraction to unconventional ideas and people and experiences, desire to create meaningful change through personal relationships and social connections. The maverick of love. I brought you a cheesy picture of Tom Cruise and the maverick himself with his flight instructor riding on a motorcycle. Sounds very Venus sextile Pluto. If the maverick of love can harness their rebellious spirit and transformative power in a constructive way, they have the potential to create relationships and social connections that are truly revolutionary. Oh, zapping forward a couple of windows from now, energy windows, Pluto will be front and center in this transformative power and rebelliousness of Aquarius. But I digress. I will point your eyes towards the North Node and the Sun are conjunct, and then we can see what's playing out. Sun will be over Chiron at an exact conjunction at the time of the eclipse, but we don't even have Moon in Aries just yet. But notice, so Mars now on the far side of this, if we exclude Pluto, we have Mars and Uranus within 70 degrees, less than 70 degrees. So that's pretty freaking tight. We've seen 90 degrees before in our surf reports, but never that tight. Sunday, on the 7th, we have now the moon is in Aries, and this is just happens to be in a perfect conjunction with Venus. Doesn't last very long. Moon whips around here pretty fast, but it makes a pretty robust sextile over to Pluto. So that maverick of love is also now very impulsive, very emotional, diving headfirst into romantic adventures. The disadvantage with this energy is that you could become easily bored or frustrated with, especially with relational routines or the predictability in relationships. And so on Sunday or this weekend, it would behoove you to, with your loved ones or with your relationship, if you want to keep it new and not get bored, do something out of the ordinary. So Angie and I headed out to some undisclosed place together, and we'll enjoy this energy on Sunday the 7th. On Monday, then, we have the total solar eclipse. We have the rising phoenix because it is all fire. Look at all this energy in Aries, and even the energies that are bracketing it. This conjunction with the runaway bulls is synergistic. It's expansive. It's very yang, very positive and expansive. And this warrior spirit here, Mars and Saturn, the disciplined warrior, is also synergistic. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But all we have is synergy, and it's synergy towards rising Phoenix. Here's another cool thing that I just realized. We are at 19 degrees, 24 minutes. That is within 26 minutes of the midheaven, at least where I am in this chart, in this alignment, is right on the midheaven. And that's really pretty cool. So it denotes if we project this eclipse out 6 months, some people argue that it could even be more, for total solar eclipse. But if we project this out to 6 months, it's very much to do with career, and it could be a transformative period. So we could bring career into this whole discussion, and that dovetails into our talk about the ES7. So that's a video series I do with energy shifts and energy windows. In the Phoenix Rising energy window, we don't talk about, we obviously have the eclipse, but I don't mention this importance of setting your intention for the 6 months. So let's do that now. And we can include something along the lines of career because it is on the midheaven. The midheaven is defined by exactly at 12 o'clock. And that's pretty cool that the eclipse is happening directly up above. I mean, who would have guessed? There's already enough synchronistic things happening on this total solar eclipse, in my opinion, and everyone's talking about. But I don't know if anybody is mentioning this. Right on the midheaven, smack dab, right on and in conjunction with Chiron. So it has this healing element to it. There's in this chart, so the alignments themselves, you obviously see this square energy, which denotes pressure, tension, but it's so waning out because Mercury's in retrograde. It's almost an 8-degree orb, so it's very, very weak. I'm just going to ignore it, basically. And all we're left with are lots of semi-sextiles denoting growth. And then we have these sextiles denoting opportunities. So there's even the alignments are rising Phoenix, growth and opportunities. Very synergistic. So the only other thing that we need to mention for this total, if you want more information or more, talk about total solar eclipse, not that you didn't get enough from everywhere else, but I did another video on this rising Phoenix energy window, and we talk about the eclipse there. That's ES7. But one more thing to talk about, to make sure you do on Monday the 8th, is come up with your Aries-based goals. And this is going to be valid for the 30 days, but also the 6 months. So all of the lunar cycles for the next 6 months are in support of and for purpose of growing your Aries talents, skills, skill sets. Even if you don't have any big planets or alignments in Aries, we all still have Aries dynamics in our natal charts. So set your intention. Here's some examples. Maybe conquer some of your fears or face a new challenge head on. Maybe speaking up, maybe public speaking, but speaking up and asserting yourself, creating some boundaries around yourself. Maybe if you're more of a Pisces or have a lot of water signs in your chart that tend to have a lot of self-sacrificing and tend to sacrifice self needs for others. And this is a time to shore that up. Take a risk and start a new business or maybe a new side hustle, particularly around the things that you have been thinking about but have been fearing starting. This is the time to do it. This next 30 days is your first step, and then you have plenty of time to finish it up. Take a stand for something you believe in. Set a personal record in a physical feat, such as running or weightlifting or some sort of physical activity, and be more assertive in your relationships and communicate your needs. Set the goals, though. That's the point. I was just giving you some examples. Then on Tuesday, we're just going to take a breath and just continue to feel the energies we just talked about and the rising Phoenix. This is a sort of a catch your breath day on Tuesday, recovering from the big weekend. And then Wednesday, the refinement of the rising Phoenix, it turns more wise. It's a spiritual warrior. The Saturn in here, this is the perfect conjunction, 14 degrees, 41 minutes of Pisces, Saturn and Mars are perfectly aligned at 3:36 p.m. Central Daylight Time on the 10th of April. We have the formal wise warrior, and it really takes that raw Aries energy and really refines it into sharpened skills, wisdom, ability to overcome personal obstacles through self-discipline. We have the gift of perseverance, potential for profound spiritual growth, getting you on your spiritual path. All these are possible outcomes, but it's the spiritual warrior on a quest for mastery, courageously confronting your own shadows, and courageously facing your own limitations. So it's the seasoned warrior, extremely calm amidst the storm. All right. And here's our picture in case you enjoy having those. It's the spiritual warrior, calm amidst chaos. So summarizing all of the energies that we've talked about, we have the gold rush. That's the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is not quite conjunct yet. That will end up being our future gold rush video. That's already out, by the way. We have the Maverick of Love. That's the sextile with Venus and Pluto. We have the Rising Phoenix, and that's pretty much all of these combined. And then we have the spiritual warrior that we talked about before, or in this last day. Here's the influence, the I Ching. It is hexagram 39, line 5. And we find obstacles for us to toil with, to get around, to create the rising phoenix. Temporary obstacles will invariably present themselves. This is not always a bad thing. And in this case, in this week, it is our catalyst for the rising phoenix. The obstacle pointed to here are not permanent, yet they are in the way for the time being. Line 5 says, in true emergencies, immediate action precedes strategy, and your resolute spirit will spur others into pitching in too. This is a 100% direct overlap with our rave. Can't wait to show you that. But basically, hexagram 39, line 5, this is our influence I Ching reading. It means you are feeling frustrated and blocked. You may be tempted to give up, but do not. Instead, take a step back and reassess your situation. There is still a way to overcome the obstacle. This is the foot stomper. There is still a way to overcome the obstacle, and that's what creates the Phoenix Rising. You are confident that you will eventually find a way to achieve your goals. All right, with that, let's go to the the summary chart. Kind of already summarized the pictures and the energies. Those are all synergistic. This is by far one of the most energetically powerful weeks in surf history. The expansive and transformative total solar eclipse marks the beginning of a glorious Aries cycle that is energetically boosted with lucky gold rush conjunction in Taurus, the Maverick of Love sextile, and the spiritual warrior intensely transiting Pisces. The overall energy is passionate, fiery, expansive, and very yang. But if you think that it's all about applying just massive amounts of yang and brute force, you're in for some very rude awakening, okay? So we need to get into some very important solutions so that you know how to navigate this week. Got to find my place again. And here we go. We're on hexagram 15. Humility. Whew. Boy, that seems like the opposite, doesn't it? Humility is rewarded in human affairs. And you can kind of see where we're headed here. Be humble and respectful. Focus on your own work. Be a team player. Be a team player. Be a team player. Do not afraid to ask for help. Be grateful for your opportunity to work. And why do you think humility is here? And it's not the only source for this. When we put this in our conversion chart, we have the eclipse here. We get hexagram 51 of the rave, and we also get Pisces sidereal. Sidereal Pisces is a direct overlap of this humility and all the meanings of it. Be a team player, be grateful for your opportunity to work, be humble and respectful, etc. So there's a definite overlap. But we also have the new moon, and we also have the rave. And rave is the gate of shock. That's hexagram 51. This gate is of individual initiative. It embodies the power to compete. And line 5 says symmetry. It's perfected illumination that, in grasping the nature of the shock, can transform its normal patterns into a symmetrical adaptation that rides the shock and avoids its devastation. The perfection of the warrior ego through instinctive adaptation. The perfection of the warrior ego through instinctive adaptation. And that is absolutely brilliant, that after the eclipse passes through hexagram or gate 51, line 5, then we have a perfecting of Mars and Saturn together, which is this same energy. It's the perfection of the warrior ego through instinctive adaptation. You might as well say instinctive adaptation is the rising phoenix. All right, let's finish this off with our summary of the triangulated solution. So here we have the rave mandala. This is the picture of the arousing, the symmetry, the perfected warrior ego. We have the I Ching that said humility and be a team player. We have Pisces sidereal that says the same thing. We have the new moon, which is the eclipse as well, is starting new things. So let's do the overall triangulation. The behaviors aligned with the rising Phoenix archetype are well represented here. But our first caution is to avoid overpowering yang action. It's not just a matter of acting yang. It's realizing that yang is there. You're going to have to do a little bit of restraint to make sure you're not overpowering the world around you or misapplying that energy. Even if the rave's gate 51 of arousing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean if. Even the rave's gate 51 of arousing is still more about the instinctive adaptation rather than raw brute force. So even though it might feel fiery and impulsive, and the tropical Aries induces a what's in it for me attitude, the I Ching and the sidereal Pisces suggest a strong focus on helping others and being a team player. If chaos or shock finds you this week, quickly adapt. That's what all of these can agree on. Quickly adapt, respond to the situation, help others as needed, and perfect the warrior ego. Remember that humility isn't a weakness. Be more spiritually strong rather than physically strong, and rather than physically yang outward. Also, the new moon eclipse means it's time to start the 2 new cycles of goals. And so I highly recommend part of your behavior set is to create your vision, your goals, your Aries goals for both the 30 days coming up, 29 days. It's the lunar cycle. It's the new moon. And then the eclipse cycle, same thing, Aries, is created for the 6 months. So what do you want to achieve? What Aries goals do you want to achieve? All right, and the runes are shifting because I want no fear. I want to tell myself I'm not living in fear, as indicated by our trip this weekend, despite all these conspiracy theories of, like it's very reminiscent of 2012 and the Y2K. No. So, yeah, if everyone's talking about it, there's probably a good chance that it's not going to happen. I think Ravi said it's going to be a big nothing burger. Yeah, I think I agree. But I'm not going to live in fear, okay? I'm not going to be haphazard, but I'm not going to leave. I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open and be aware, but I'm not going to live in fear, all right? And with that, my runes are going to be Tiwaz, because I want the warrior. I want the Aries masculine energy and the passion there, the courage to be victorious no matter what. And I don't really have a lot of Aries in my natal chart, so this was going to be a really good one for me to hone over the next 6 months. And then synergistically, we have a dual role Algiz. Some people call it Elhaz, but it's dual role. We're going to use this to know fear, awakening the Phoenix rising, because it also denotes opportunity and, boundaries. But it also provides divine protection. So you get the best of both worlds there. Those two, Algiz and Tiwaz, is what I'm going out with for at least the next 30 days. All right, everybody. This is what we've got coming up this week. This is for the Phoenix Rising. How'd we do today? Did I misspeak? Did I have any suggestions that you need to suggest? That's down below. Put those comments below. Thank you for sharing and commenting. And if you want more on this Rising Phoenix, which I highly recommend, hit this card right here. It's a video that take you to the more details about the solar eclipse and that energetic window. Other than that, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here, and have a very nice week.